Thursday. What up, YouTube? What up, Blamley? Y'all in the house, and I'm glad that y'all are here. We're going to have a good conversation tonight. Talking about jealousy, y'all. Talking about jealousy and its impact on your relationship. Do me a favor and let me know in the chat whether or not you've ever experienced jealousy in a relationship that you've been in. Type of one if you've ever experienced jealousy in a relationship that you've been in. Whether you've been the one that's been jealous or whether your partner has been the one that's been jealous. Do me a favor and type a one in the chat. Has anybody that you dealt with, or even you yourself, been jealous in a relationship? I'm curious. I want to know. Have you experienced it before? Have you seen it before? Do you know what it looks like? Do you know what it feels like? I'm seeing the ones in IG come through, and I'm seeing one soul one over here in the Blamely. I know some of y'all have had to have experienced jealousy before. And so, again, whether it's with you or with your partner, it's a very real thing, y'all. It's a very real thing. Michelle said, my ex has been jealous. And yeah, it's a very real thing. So again, tonight, y'all, what I want to talk about is this whole jealousy piece and how it can kill your relationship. It can kill your relationship. And so it's very insidious because sometimes we mask it as care. We mask it as concern. We mask it as, I got your best interest at heart and in mind. But the reality is that you're just jealous. DJ Salam said, I'm jealous. And you're owning that. So, I mean, it's a very real thing, y'all. So again, we're talking about this topic. So when it comes to this whole jealousy piece, and I'm not going to be before you all long. I got a few things I need to take care of this evening, but I do want to touch on this because it's something that a lot of people are dealing with. And what's interesting is that when you think about this whole concept of jealousy, we got to first define what jealousy is. What is jealousy? What is jealousy and how does it show up in your relationships? And so when we think about this whole jealousy piece, jealousy is an emotional response to the fear of losing something valuable. Y'all see the cabs and insecurities, inadequacy mix. Yes, it's often rooted in insecurities and also a deep sense of inadequacy. That's where it's coming from, y'all. And it typically manifests as feelings of anxiety, suspicion, all of the above, and sometimes even resentment toward a perceived threat. My husband isn't comfortable with my finances. That's what they're saying over here on IG. And so jealousy can rear its ugly head in a number of different ways. And so sometimes when it comes to this whole insecurity piece, what it looks like is, basically fears of not being enough. And so have any of you all dealt with, and y'all don't got to put no one in the chat if this is you, but feeling like you're not attractive enough, feeling like you don't look good enough, feeling like you're not successful enough, not accomplished enough, feeling like you're not tall, short enough, not big enough. When it comes to you satisfying your partner, has anybody ever grappled with those types of thoughts and feelings? And so if those things are present, it can cause some sense of insecurity in you. And you can have these feelings of inadequacy, which may lead you to behave in a particular way if you think that somebody else got what you don't got. And so you show up to try to protect what it is that you have. And sometimes it looks like jealousy. But what about the fear of abandonment? When it comes to fear showing up in your relationship and manifesting as jealousy, it may be emanating from a place where there's this fear of abandonment. Anybody dealt with that before? Fear of betrayal, fear of rejection. If you had a challenged relationship with your parents, a lot of times people have expressed that I don't necessarily trust that you're going to be there for me, that you're going to be here with me. And as a result, like I'm unsure and I'm insecure and I feel inadequate at times because I'm wondering whether or not I got enough to keep you here. It gets back into that whole piece about whether or not I'm actually good enough. And so in addition to that, like you may also be in a space where if you're grappling with fears of inadequacy, you may be in a space where you're challenged to show up in a way where you're your most authentic self. So you start to fake. You start to pretend. You start to attempt to be somebody else because you're acting and performing and tap dancing and showing up in a way in which you think that your partner would value you the most. But you're not being your real self. And so it's a whole bunch of fakery going on. And then consequently, what ends up happening is that you're in a fake relationship. Or better yet, they're in a relationship with somebody who's being fake, who's showing up in a fake way. And again, we're doing this, we're putting on because we're trying to protect what it is that we got. But underneath all of that, y'all, is a deep sense of security, inadequacies, and a low sense of self-worth. And in order to address this, like, it's important to increase that. We got to increase it. And so while these feelings of jealousy may come and go, again, the underlying issues need to be addressed, y'all. I said this to somebody earlier today. I said, bro, you are enough. And it wasn't even a situation in which he was expressing some element of jealousy, but I just wanted to lift up that you are enough. You are enough. You are enough. And so we have to be able to internalize that message, because if we're grappling with insecurities or inadequacies, sometimes we feel less than. So whether it be based off of our looks, whether it be based off of our size, whether it be based off of our accomplishments, whether it be based off of whether we can have children or not, sometimes we question ourselves and wonder whether or not I'm good enough. And what I'm saying to you is, because God is in you, with you, and through you, and for you, you are enough. Point blank, period. And so even if you internalize that message, it doesn't mean that you won't walk through this earth, walk through this world without having to grapple with and deal with jealousy. Because sometimes you got to deal with it from within, and then sometimes you got to deal with it from without, on the outside. And so some of y'all have been in situations, whether it be with your intimate partner, you've dealt with people who may have dealt with them that show up in a jealous ass way that impacts your relationship. Type a 1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. If you've had that experience where it's not even jealousy from your partner, and we're going to get into that in a second, but it's jealousy with external folks, those others, those randoms that want to, just interfere and get in the way and get in your mess and try to create dissent and discord in your relationship. Can anybody relate to that? Again, type a 1 in the chat if you can relate to that. Folks just all up in your business, creating mess. And unfortunately, it may come from places and spaces where they express that they love you. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you have family or friends attempting to undermine your relationship. Y'all know what I'm talking about. They make negative comments about your partner, make negative comments about your bond, make negative comments about your intimacy, make negative comments about your connection. They always got something negative to say. They might be asking questions like, is he good for you? Are you sure he is where he say he is? Trying to interfere and get in the mess. And again, they disguise it underneath the idea of, I'm trying to look out for your best interest, but it just feels like there's always this other angle. There's always this drama. And then if you look at their relationships, they in a whole hot mess. Just stirring the pot, y'all. Stirring the pot. And then sometimes you might even have folks that are attempting to interfere with your relationship that may even be ex-partners of yours. Lurkers, creepers, that come out the woodworks, attempting to create doubt about your decision to do something different. Has anybody had that before? Like, they just try to put their bid in on the low. Try to get you to question whether or not, is real. It's worth it. Whether or not he got something that I ain't got. Is he better than me? Is she better than me? Remember when we used to do this? These people are talking about, like, again, ex-partners, people that you might even connect in with on social media. They dropping it or jumping into your DM, again, trying to create discord, dropping a pic here, a message there. And as a result, like, what's reflected in that is that you got outside people who are jealous of what you got, trying to interfere with what it is that you have. You got to tighten up your relationship, tighten up your resolve. Yeah, Ellen said unsolicited DMs. Yeah, it's people out here, y'all, just trying to create a ruckus, a mess. Remaining in contact, trying to bring up old memories. I mean, that's a whole lesson in and of itself, in which the person who's still engaging and interacting with the other person, like, they need to cut that. They need to cut that. But even with that being said, sometimes they find ways, some circuitous routes to, like, actually engage and attempt to connect in with you. They want to make it seem like your idea to move on to the next one, who was your current one, was a bad idea. That's messy, y'all. That's jealousy getting up in the mix. And then sometimes, y'all, you might have social media playing a significant influence in terms of this whole jealousy aspect as well. Like, it's a number of people on here, myself included. Sometimes you be watching likes, you be watching interactions, you be watching engagements, and if somebody else got something more than what you got, then it can create feelings of jealousy. It can create feelings of envy. This is very real stuff, y'all. And so external jealousy can lead people to move in a particular way. And again, when it comes to us being in a relationship, we got to make sure we shore it up so that we can protect what it is that we have. But not only do we have to worry about external factors like friends, family, ex-partners, children. And when I say family, I mean, I'm talking about your mama and them. It's not just your cousin. It's not just your auntie and uncle. Sometimes it's your mama. Sometimes it's your dad. All up in the mix. And that external factor piece that is leading to some jealousy may be because you were the one that he chose. You were the one that she chose. And as a result, in order for them to choose you, for them to leave and cleave, that means that somebody have to be left. And sometimes mommy don't like the fact that she was left. Sometimes daddy don't like the fact that he was left. And so what it leads to is a feeling of jealousy. And so they start interfering in the relationship. Has anybody had that experience? Type a 2 in the chat if you've had that experience before, where you got your in-laws or you got your parents interfering with your relationship, raising questions, again, seemingly operating in your best interest, but lo and behold, what it is that there was this attachment piece that was present. And as a result, because they felt like you left them, they decide to maintain the attachment and get up in your relationship, get up in your marriage. Very quickly volunteering to watch the kids just so that they could be at your house. Coming over every weekend to cook dinner. Can anybody relate to that? The reviewer said, nah, because I set healthy boundaries with family and friends. I respect that. That's what's required. Ellen said more like outlaws. But it's real. It's a number of people that are dealing with that. And then the uncomfortable piece is that the other partner is put in a position where they got to assist you in the process of drawing boundaries because sometimes you don't see it. Entanglement has gotten a bad rap in terms of infidelity, but sometimes you can be entangled with your own parents. Not in a sexual way, but in an intimate way that creates a certain level of discomfort in your current relationship. You all like this. There's no leaving and cleaving going on. Y'all are just all like this, joined at the hip. And that's an unhealthy relationship dynamic that can definitely kill the intimacy and the connection in your relationship. So be mindful, y'all. Be mindful. Again, friends, family, ex-partners, social media. It's harder because if the partner enables, if they enable it, it only gets worse. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You got to help them set that boundary. And then you got to also set boundaries for yourself. It's important. And so when you experience something like this, it's definitely going to create conflict between the partners. And intimacy is, a way in which sometimes that is impacted. If you're always focused on, making sure your mother is taken care of and your father is taken care of, but you're not taking care of me, then I'm less of a priority. I'm less of a priority. I don't feel like we're a team. In fact, I feel like a united front ain't no reality. Everybody else is the priority, but I'm in second place. I'm in last place. What about us? What about us? Now, in addition to the external jealousy, y'all, you also got internal jealousy that takes place in a relationship. Now, I'm going to include the kids in this too. I'm going to include the kids in this as well. And so this is a tough one. Let me just start off with the children. I mean, y'all have probably heard of the Oedipus and Electra complex, where boys, develop a attachment to their mom. And as a result, like breaking that relationship and separating is difficult when daddy is present and mommy and daddy are attempting to connect. Like the boy wants to be in the mix and has this possessive element when it comes to mommy. It's the same for girls. The Electra complex where, girls are wanting to be possessive of daddy. And there's a certain level of jealousy that may be present in terms of mommy and daddy attempt to connect, to spend time. And so I'm lifting this up because developmentally, it can be appropriate at a particular point. But some of y'all are way past that point. Some of y'all are way past that point. And so this goes back to that piece of establishing healthy boundaries in your relationship. Healthy boundaries means that sometimes in certain situations when it comes to kids, you got to say no. I know some people have an interesting relationship with Bill Cosby, but he created this show called Little Bill. And my wife and I, we talk about this often, but one of the episodes, I believe it was called Private Time. Private Time. And in this episode, Little Bill, has anybody seen it, number one? We actually showed this to our children. Little Bill was attempting to interfere in a connecting moment between mommy and daddy. They were in the kitchen, having a conversation, giving each other a hug and giving each other a kiss. It was a real cute moment, but Little Bill was like, standing right there in the middle, trying to inch his way in between both of them and trying to vie for attention from mommy. Pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. And what eventually was said is that, mommy and daddy having private time. And establishing that you're having private time with your children is important. It establishes healthy boundaries. It helps them to understand that boundaries are important, number one. But then number two, they can also establish boundaries for themselves. Possessiveness is a natural part of human development. As you go from being a child to an adolescent to an adult, you own the reality around you in terms of specifically your parents. Like, you're possessive. You consider them to be at one point in your development, like there's no separation. There's attachment there 24/7. And so I don't see any differentiation between you and I. We are one. But establishing healthy boundaries means that there is a separation that has to occur. And from parent to child, if you're in a healthy relationship, if you're in a relationship, it's important that you be clear with your children that mommy and daddy got to have private time. Got to have private time. So I want to make that clear right there. Now, in the relationship between the two parents, the two adults, sometimes the possessiveness manifests because one partner wants control over another partner's interactions, the way they move, the way they engage the world. And so what that leads to is a certain level of feeling restricted, and it's manifesting from a space of feeling unsure, feeling insecure, and also being afraid of what the other person might possibly be doing. And so you attempt to control, you attempt to be possessive because you're afraid that they may be interacting with somebody else. What up, Michael? You're afraid. And so again, that jealousy is manifesting in a way in which you try to limit the way in which they show up, the way in which they engage the world. And it's unhealthy, y'all. It's unhealthy. So we got to make sure that we're managing our own emotions in those spaces and recognize that individuality and autonomy are important in a relationship. When you don't respect that, when you don't honor that, and recognize that they have the way or the ability to be able to develop and grow into the person that they choose to grow into, when you're trying to control that, you actually stifle the fullness of who they can possibly become. And so not only do you limit their potential, but you also limit the potential of the relationship. So we got to release the grip, y'all, and recognize that the possessiveness, attempting to control their interactions, only stifles the growth of the relationship. Jealousy also looks like suspicion, y'all. You constantly questioning your partner's whereabouts, always asking where they're going, what the intentions are, what type of relationships they got with other people. Now, let me be clear. Some people have actually stepped out of line 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and are doing it right now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a bunch of times. And so the suspicion may be warranted. I should have qualified what I'm talking about tonight with the element that if you're in a relatively healthy relationship, absent of infidelity, some of these things right here, are over the top and unwarranted. But if infidelity is taking place, then there will probably be some suspicions, rightfully so. There may even be some attempts to control, some possessiveness, rightfully so, because you're grappling with fear, and you want to make sure that the person is where they say they're going to be. They ain't talking to whomever they said they was going to be talking to, and so again, y'all, it's not just you trying to control; it's you all trying to establish boundaries to protect the relationship. And so what you do is you put parameters in place so that y'all can get, or so that he or she can get back in alignment, and the relationship can continue moving on the path that it needs to be moving on. But if you're in a relationship absent of infidelity and you got possessiveness going on, you got suspicion going on, and you even got comparisons going on, again, it may be emanating from a place of internal jealousy. Sometimes people can, be comparing themselves to their partner as it pertains to success. It might even be in reference to their achievements, their relationships with other people, their position at church, the fact that they coach in a basketball team, football team, volleyball team. They're well known in the community. And so even between partners, you may have jealousy that's present. If you've dealt with that, type a 3 in the comments. If you think you've dealt with that, type a 3 in the comments. And real talk, jealousy is a human emotion. And so it's not that you won't experience it at different points in time. But what I'm speaking about tonight is when it goes unchecked. And when I say unchecked, what I'm talking about is not really examining the underlying fear, the inadequacy, the insecurities that are present. Because if you start to feel it, then you got to ask yourself the question, why? Why am I feeling it? Is it about them or is it really about me? Sometimes you may find yourself in a relationship where your partner is feeling jealous about the amount of time that you spend with a friend. And I'm not even talking about on no romantic type tip. I'm just talking about just spending time with girlfriends, spending time with the homies. And I'm not even talking about going over the top where you're just always over there. You could have not been over there for a minute, y'all. And then the moment you make a decision, I'm going to go hang out with the girls, I'm going to go hang out with the fellas, then your partner automatically gets jealous. That right there is unhealthy. Why? It's almost as if they need you to be right there with them in order for security to be present. And that's not necessary. That right there is a reflection of the fact that some more internal work needs to be done. Because you should be able to hang out with your homies. And you should be able to hang out with your girls. You really should. Again, what I'm talking about is when it's excessive, then I can understand it being problematic. But when it's occasional, you're supposed to be attempting to develop your whole being. And they should be supporting you in that process as well. And so if jealousy is creeping up and they have a difficult time doing that, they got to do their work. They got to do their work. Sometimes people have a hard time with the amount of attention that a partner gets in social settings. You ever been to a party and, your man or your woman is the life of the party and then you're sitting in the back, or they're the ones that walk in first and everybody is all hyping them up and you feel like the bystander. You feel like the accoutrement. You feel like the addition. And this is your husband, this is your wife. And so you're there to support them in their party, but it's really supposed to be a party that includes both of y'all. Has anybody had that experience before? And so if you've had that experience, I'm sure you too have had the experience where you've gotten into constant arguments. You might even engage in some type of passive aggressive behavior where you withdraw in the relationship because you're like, I went there with you, But it wasn't even, I mean, I wasn't even there with you. I went there with you, but I wasn't there with you when we were in there. Ellen said, welcome, Mr. Cardi B. Yeah, it's, I'm the side piece in my marriage. And the audience is the prime or the primary piece. You gotta pay attention to that, fam. We do. We got to be more inclusive when it comes to making sure our partners are our partners in these spaces and places. What happens is that, when it's not appropriately dressed, you can find yourself in a situation where it undermines the trust and creates emotional distance between y'all. You feel like you don't really value me. You don't really see me. That's what I hear women saying. I hear women saying that. Like you don't see me and you're not making room for me. And so because you're not making room for me, it feels almost as if like you don't value me. You don't value my contribution, which then creates a certain amount of distance between y'all. And when jealousy is present, y'all, sometimes it can lead to emotional manipulation. Not only does it lead to withdrawal, but it can also lead to you attempting to utilize different things that you have as your assets and remove those things until the person complies to what it is that you feel like they should behave as. So I'm speaking about sex. So you withdraw and you withhold. You withhold sex. You withhold affection. You withhold intimacy, um, because you're afraid, and that's the only place where you have some sort of control. The only place. And so, in order to confront these, y'all, so again, I've spoken about the whole external jealousy in terms of external forces that may lead to people feeling jealous, whether it be family and friends, whether it be exes, whether it be situations in social media, trying to influence and just get in your relationship and be negative about it. I don't know how many times we've heard people like just hate on the stuff that my wife and I do over here on the gram, on YouTube, just straight hating. And sometimes I get in the ring and spar, but a lot of times it's a waste of time. Because as I've learned a long time ago, you got a lot of bots out here. You arguing with a 13-year-old kid. It's not necessary. It's not worth it. And so, again, the important piece is to make sure what you do is solid, handle your business, and create boundaries and strengthen what it is that you got. And so, if jealousy is present in your relationship, the best thing that you can do, y'all, is not just sit on that thing, but talk about it. You got to be open and honest in your communication about what's going on. Acknowledge the fact that you're jealous and explain where it's coming from without blaming them, y'all. Don't make them the response. A lot of times your partner is just living life and doing them. And so they're unaware of the fact that you're jealous. And so when they become aware, the last thing that you want to do is blame them when they're not even intentionally attempting to do anything to you. They're just doing them. And so you may be impacted by them doing them. They may be inconsiderate, but even with that being said, there's a way to express what it is that you feel without saying you did this or you're doing that. Because oftentimes the retort is, I'm just doing me. So I'm not doing anything to you, I'm doing me. And that statement in and of itself can be problematic because then the follow-up to that is, that's the problem. You're just doing you. I'm trying to do us, but you're just doing you. And then you go back and forth, back and forth. And so again, the appropriate thing to do is express how you feel, of course, using I statements. I feel insecure. I feel uncertain. I feel unsure. And then you follow it up with whatever behavior you're seeing that you feel unsure about. And so instead of saying like you always flirting with your coworker, I feel unsure about the amount of time that you're spending with your coworker. And then sometimes what we're doing is we're actually placing pieces in there that we have no knowledge about because that's what we believe is taking place. And so again, that's why it's important for you all to express what it is that you feel. Express what you feel. Then you also want to examine the root causes of it. Why you feel threatened? Why? What are you afraid of losing? You know, what are underneath these insecurities and fears that are leading you to move in the way that you're moving where you do feel this jealousy? You want to look at some of your past experiences, whether it be in other relationships, intimate partner relationships, or even your childhood relationships. Because the jealousy may be being triggered not by what you're experiencing right now, but what you experienced in the past. And so again, the initial event may not have happened between you and your partner. A seed may have been planted a long time ago, and it's manifesting in your current relationship. And so again, are these fears based off the current reality, or are these fears based off of past pains? We got to ask ourselves that question. And sometimes we got to ask ourselves that question before we approach our partner. Because if we actually take the time to sit with it and see where it's coming from, then we can get clear, and some stuff we may not even approach our partner about. You know, I mean, so again, what you can do is journal. Journal, look for patterns and past experiences that may have been root causes of your jealousy. When you identify the patterns, speaking about them and writing about them, it provides a sense of clarity. So when you experience it again, if you're triggered, you'll recognize that this right here don't got nothing to do with my relationship. It's really kicking up something in me that I experienced when I was a child, or when I experienced something in my previous relationship. Asthma pains, unfortunately, help mold us. It's real, y'all. It's real. Another thing that you can do is reaffirm the boundaries. Reaffirm the boundaries and reaffirm the trust. One of the things that people don't do is when jealousy starts to creep up, and it's apparent that it's based or steeped in insecurities and fears, people get defensive. People get defensive. And this is a tricky one, y'all, because you can be on the up and up. You could be doing your thing. You can be honoring your partner. And because they're triggered based off of something that ain't even got nothing to do with you, they show up in the relationship with a certain energy. And so when I say reaffirm trust and the boundaries in the relationship, what I'm talking about is for the person who's being accused or who's impacted by their partner being triggered, I'm challenging you to rise up and recognize that there's more to what it is that you're looking at. There's more than meets the eye. It requires a certain level of emotional maturation in order for you to do that. I mean, that's just real talk because, and some of y'all have done it. I know I've had to do it in my relationship a few times where I've had to take a step back, inhale and exhale and gather myself and realize that it's not even really about what my wife is approaching me about. It's not about this. And so when I'm able to recognize that, what I do is it enables me to extend grace and create a safe space for us to unpack whatever it is that she's experiencing so that we can get to the root of whatever it is that's present, that's underneath all of the stuff. And so again, I'm challenging you to for the person who's impacted by somebody being triggered to take a step back, just take a beat and ask yourself, is this really about me or is it about them? And then extend grace. And so when I say restoring trust and boundaries, what I'm talking about is, again, approaching it from the perspective of it's about us, not just about me. And so when you're restoring trust and boundaries in a relationship and you're reaffirming your partner, again, you can speak to the pain that they're feeling by if there has been any infidelity or any uncertainty that's ever been created or caused on your part by reassuring them that you're not in the same space that you've been in before and that you're in this with them. I was working with a couple before, and the wife, she had an issue because she was triggered by a dream. And this couple had dealt with infidelity. And so, my wife and I, we were working with them, but in this particular session, I was working with them one-on-one. And so she had been triggered based off of having a dream. And so the way that the husband responded was he assumed a defensive posture based off of the energy that she was coming at him with, based off of her being triggered from this dream. And so she has a responsibility, of course, to govern herself appropriately and not attack based off of the fact that, I've had this dream. He too has a responsibility that when she's bringing this to him, to take a step back and to examine like really what's going on and to meet her need of being reassured. And so both partners have a responsibility. And in that situation, both of them were out of alignment with what it is that they had said that they wanted to do. And so when you're able to recognize that again, you have a responsibility no matter which seat you sit in, then you can show up appropriately. And so boundaries for one person may look like, can we have this conversation at a different point in time? Because I can see that you're elevated and escalate, and I don't want this situation to escalate. That may be what it looks like in the moment. But that reaffirming trust and that reassurance is so critical and pivotal when it comes to making sure that you're addressing the jealousy appropriately. Again, I hope y'all hear me. Both people got to do their work. They both do. And when they do that, again, it can help to strengthen the connection. How can someone differentiate between healthy jealousy and toxic jealousy in a relationship? If it's pervasive, it's toxic. If it's pervasive, they're not doing their work. And what I'm speaking about in terms of doing their work is doing some individual therapy, doing some journaling to ask the questions about why and where it's coming from. Most of the time, if it's pervasive, and then here's the piece, if it's pervasive and it's warranted, then you should actually be doing your work and asking a question, why am I in a relationship with the person that I'm in a relationship with that's actually contributing to the jealousy that I have? You should ask yourself that question. It's a miserable life to constantly be walking around in an existence where this is what you do 24/7. You're just jealous, jealous, jealous. That's unhealthy. So do your work. And if the person's behavior is contributing to an atmosphere where, well, I'll be damned. Like, I mean, if it walk like a duck, quack like a duck, it is a duck. If that's the reality of your relationship, then you should be asking yourself, why am I still in this relationship? Or why is he or she not doing the work that needs to be done so they can actually show up in a different way? And why are they not respecting the fact that these are sensitive areas that may be possibly triggering to me? Everybody has a role to play, y'all. And a lot of times people are too busy looking at what the other person got to do and not paying attention to what they got to do. You also want to pour into yourself, boost your self-esteem. You need to validate you. Focus on your own goals, hobbies. Pick up a new skill, learn a new language, self-care, whatever it may be. Like, you need to pour into you. The more you pour into yourself and the more you grow, then the less likely you'll feel threatened by other people. Because you're that dude. You're that queen, like you're that king. And the more you feel good about you, like you're doing your thing. And so you know you're of value because of what God has placed inside of you. And so it's important for you to Again, make sure you're pouring into you, contributing to you, so you can increase your own sense of self-worth, how you see yourself and how you value yourself. At the end of the day, y'all, if you can't do that, get some professional help. I said if jealousy is a pervasive element in your relationship, then you got to do the personal work to understand what the root cause is. Get to the why. Get to the why. And what's required in many instances is, for an external party to ask the probing questions, create the safe space, and be able to go deeper. And so you can do this individually. You can also do it collectively. Over here on IG, if you want some support from my wife and I, type in the comments, help me, and we'll reach out to you. Help me or help us. You can either DM us, help me or help us, or type in the comments, help me or help us. Everybody else, you can go to blamconsult.com, BLAM consult.com. Schedule a session with us. We're here to provide support, but again, in certain situations, it's hard for people to do it on their own. Yeah, Ellen said, hype your damn self up. Yes. Hype yourself up to build up that self-esteem. But we're here to support y'all. We're here to support, and I don't want anybody that's grappling with this to have to live a life where it's a constant thing and a constant theme. It can kill a relationship if it's present. And more importantly, it can kill you. The stress. So you got to find healthy ways to address those fears and insecurities that you may be feeling. When you do that, then it increases the chances for you to be able to have a better connection in your relationship. All right, good people. So I'm gonna put a pin in it right there. Like I said, if you need some support in your relationship, you can go to blamconsult.com. That's BLAMCONSULT.com. Or if you're on IG, just type in the comments, help me. Or you can type in the comments, help us. Or you can send us a DM, and we'll holler at you with a way to be able to connect in with us to get some support. Hopefully this has been helpful, and you're able to see yourself a little bit better, and you're able to understand that, like, if my jealousy is at a place where it's interfering with the quality of my life, it's unwarranted, and it's causing me internal stress, I need to do something about it. If you got other people who are trying to interfere with your life and causing you external or internal stress in your relationship because of their external jealousy, like, create those boundaries. You got to do something about that. If y'all are having a hard time with creating the boundaries inside of your relationship with the two of you, or even with people outside of your relationship, get some support. Get some support. We're more than willing to help you. Again, reach out to us, and I'm going to connect in with y'all next time. Y'all be easy and enjoy your